Hi, welcome to the Mom series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity. My name is Maria. So I haven't made a video in a while, and that has to do with the tough subjects or anything really sticky, like talking about multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder. So I thought I would get back. I'd throw myself back in the fire and start talking about stuff that I think is really important. And I want to talk about a little more truth about multiple personality and dissociative identity disorder, or what people experience. Their life is just being with more than one. And I've been posting about it. When media gets in the mix and there is an opportunity to make money with anything, it becomes a disorder, an epidemic, and all of a sudden it's pandemic. It's everywhere. And there could be cause for people to be overdiagnosed and an abuse of power. Okay? So I said way back in 2007-8 when I started my channel that when the name was changed from multiple personality or MPD in 93, 94 to dissociative identity disorder, that was to get rid of multiple personalities. Not to say that isn't a experience or condition that people experience different persona states all day long, and all people do that, but to cover the shame of all of the lawsuits that went on from some very bad psychiatry. Excuse me one second. Okay, so there was some really bad psychiatry that went on between the mid-80s and mid-90s. And really, when insurance companies got tired of paying out lawsuits, they were talking about, we need to change this. Psychiatry was becoming a laughingstock again, very much like it had become. And I covered this in Medical Muses, Asti Hustafed's Medical Muses, the book Medical Muses, all about the Salpêtrière Hospital and Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot, and how he had these women on a hysteria floor unit where they were just women that behaved differently sometimes, that suddenly had physical symptoms that couldn't be explained, that behaved out of character, that were suggestible and could behave in ways that other times they couldn't. He was made out to be a charlatan for really parading and circusing these women about. People from all over the world came to view these women, artists, poets, writers, doctors, every doctor out there, Carl Jung, Freud, who else? Excuse me, Dr. Morton Prince, who came back to, I'm gonna wheeze now. Dustin, your hair. My cat. Morton Prince brought back to America the title multiple personality, but back in France, in Paris, in France, in the 1800s, they called it hysteria. Okay, and what hysteria really was, it wasn't some woman going crazy or some man going crazy. It was somebody who was complaining about physical. I think it's important to say what hysteria is, because I've talked about it a lot, but I don't think we ever really look it up and really look into it. Because hysteria, when you say the word, people think it's a bad thing. And we've given a lot of things negative meanings. But hysteria really only means that women or men or children are experiencing physical and physical symptoms and emotional distress with it that scientifically a doctor doesn't have a test for or can explain. So after the physician, neurologist, primary care doctor, after they do all the testing, the blood tests, all the empirical stuff, come back and they say, I don't know why you're having that ache or that pain. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with you. We don't know why you suddenly can't see out of your eye. We don't know why your hand's twitching. We don't know why you're contorting. We don't know why. They named it hysteria. They said, well, maybe there's something psychological going on that needs to be expressed through the body. And the body's manifesting it through pain, suffering, torturing, and sickness. Then there were other hysterics that were labeled as more stigmata because they were seemed more like spiritual things were happening to them. And they really didn't know what was going on with these women. Are they talking to angels? Are they talking to spirit guides? Are they witches? Dr. Jean-Martin Chicot said, no, they're different personalities. But they named it hysteria. Dr. Morton Prince came to the States and named it multiple personality. Dr. Cornelia Wilbur was a great student of his. So I've talked about this in the past, but just a little recap for if you're new to my channel, because I've been away from my channel for a while now. So I've always said I don't believe in multiple personality the way the media has shown it to us, or the trauma medical model. And what I mean by that is very important to pay attention to when I say medical model. I believe that it's very normal for the way it was explained to me from younger, and I'm 59 now, is that we all have different versions of ourselves. We all have bad memories and some trauma in our background. And nobody comes into this world that doesn't have trauma in their background. Some of us have more of it than others. Some of us have a kind of trauma that is just too... Trauma is trauma is trauma, but if some of it is... It really all depends on your own psyche. If there's a lot of mental gymnastics you have to do in your head to get through something tough. And anybody that's ever struggled through fear of anything, you know, or a moment of, oh my God, what do I do? You know that you have gone through some mental leaps that just are incredible, right? And then you come out the other side and you're like, you really can't remember that. Or maybe you had to go for a medical procedure that there was a point that the doctor told you, okay, you are going to be in pain during this, and I'm not going to be able to help you with it. You're going to be awake, and you just got to bear through it. And you did. But you don't know how you did. That's normal. That's normal. What the medical trauma treatment model says is that for some, we not only bared through tough times, but we created others to fill in the blank. Like we weren't there, but somebody else was. Now, how do they know that? Usually, somebody will show up in therapy and they'll begin to see that they're talking to somebody who everything's fine all the time, everything's good, blah, blah, blah. They have no memory of nothing. Somebody else is coming in always depressed and needing to talk about that. And they don't, people don't just walk in and say, hi, my name is, and I'm so-and-so. But when they finally do, then they have to write down multiple personalities. So over the years, I've looked at all the different depictions in the movie. In the movies, in the film, in the books, in the music, and everything. And sometimes people will announce they feel like a boy or a girl or a male or a female. And the doctor will write down gender identity, but they won't tell them that right away. Sometimes they'll say, well, just call me this. And the therapist will say, well, do you prefer to be called something else? And they're looking for your aspects and alters. They're looking for it. It's not rare. The biggest misconception is that it's rare. It's not rare. It's sane, it makes sense, and it's fairly normal. Most people just aren't as aware of it. Okay? Now, when you become aware of it, if you have insurance and you go for treatment, and the treatment of the day was talk treatment and a lot of it, and specialized treatment centers, if you went to a private treatment center or a hospital that specialized in it, you could end up there forever until your insurance wore out. And that's what happened. A lot of women went in to the hospital for depression, for anxiety, or not being able to sleep. They went to a doctor and they ended up in the hospital. They were told they had nervous breakdowns, but nervous breakdown, there's no such thing as a nervous breakdown. That is a media-made term. See, in the 1940s, cinema, big screen, silver big screen was just coming into its own. Black and white was kind of, it was still black and white, but we were going into the 50s where color was coming in. And the silver screen was ending and more, they knew this was coming on the horizon. They were developing it. And the pictures at the silent movies were over with. And musicals, they were still around, but they were getting away from musicals. And they really wanted to depict human behavior and human drama and comedy, but not just slapstick comedy. They wanted to really depict everyday human behavior. So they went to psychiatry. Psychiatry was a very fluff, soft science at this time. It wasn't legitimized, not really. Neurologists were legitimized, but psychoanalysis was thought of as frivolous and more like a philosophy, which is why it's a PhD. And psychiatrists were not really looked at as real doctors. It wasn't really scientific, empirically based. It wasn't. If a person had a neuropsychiatry, then they might be considered a little more, hard science. But just if you became a psychiatrist after going through medical school, you were seen as kind of a fluff flake, a fluffy flake. So, it needed to be legitimized, and what they did was it needed a lot of clientele. And if you read Mad in America, and there's a whole bunch of really great books that I've told you over the years. I'll make a reading list later and put it up. So many. Crazy in America. I can think of so many good books right now. Medical Muses by Asti Hustafed. Creating Hysteria by Joan A. O'Calla. Oh wow, so many. I'll get them all up later in a list for you if you haven't read them already. There's also a timeline that I talked about in 2007 that I said I gotta get through, but I never did. There was finally a time in the 80s when it was permissible for a woman to report abuse by her husband and for children to report abuse by their parents. By the early 1970s, humane laws got on the books, or there were farmers and landowners that were abusing their horses and cattle. They made humane laws. And if it had not been for the animal rights laws, we would not have spousal laws and child abuse laws. For a long time, children and women were property of their husbands, their fathers, or their brothers. And that's why often a father, a brother, or a husband could get together and decide to commit a woman to the state hospital. And they weren't believed. If they said, my husband's doing this or that, it's like, she's a little. Okay. So it took a long time before children were believed, too. By the 80s, we had seen depictions of what a nervous breakdown looks like, according to media. We had seen depictions of what homeless people look like, according to the media. Psychiatry made a manual of codes. Media came to psychiatry and said, of abnormal behavior, antisocial behavior. Cinema came to psychiatry and said, how do we depict those roles? And doctors actually taught them, directors and producers, how to in method acting, direct your student into a role and a scene and get them in character. And what a homeless person looked like, a demented person, antisocial person, a old frail person would look like, how a depressed person would look, a hysterical woman having a nervous breakdown, a crazed man, psychopath, criminal, a violent man. We started to see movies like domestic violence, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. We started to see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Francis, the story of Fanny Farmer. We started to see Raising Cain. We started to see all those movies came out. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So many. We started to see TV shows like Medical Center, America's Wellbe. Just even medical illnesses were shown to us in a way that furthered cement in our mind what a diabetic looked like, what a schizophrenic looked like, what a hypochondriac looked like, what a seizure looked like, what an epileptic looked like, what somebody who was having a heart attack looked like. We always saw this, So all that came from medical scriptwriters and psychiatric scriptwriters who advised cinema how to write those characters and then showed role-playing between doctors. And then that became method acting. Okay, and what's important to say here is when you try on a role and you go into a scene and you become that character, there are a slew of actors and actresses out there right now that have played roles in a TV drama or a comedy or movie, and aspects of that character they decided I liked playing that character. I liked this about her. And they adapted it into their personality. And it's part of them now. And there are some that were traumatized by playing a role and being in a scene. And they had to go to a very dark place, and it never left them. And it has tormented them forever. And they've had to have therapy, they've had to have medication. So when we name something, we really do create it. When we play with that and try it on, it can become part of we are creatures of habit. If there's one book for you to read, out of all the books out there, I would say read what the troops wrote to Trudy Chase. Creature of Habit, A Journey. This was the book that Trudy Chase and the troops wrote after One Rabbit House, that never was published while they were alive, which blows my mind still, because after all, Trudy and the Troops' book One Rabbit House was on the bestsellers New York Times list for a year and a half. So much so that they made a 5-night mini drama, or was it 3 nights, mini drama, I think it was 5 nights, on TV, on a major TV station. It was on TV every night, a major mini movie. It was right after Roots, it was one of the main mini movies, was the story of Trudy Chase, Voices Within, and the troops. After all that, after all the multiple personalities, the 100 or 99 or so personalities that we met in One Rabbit House, a group that wrote their book together without a doctor writing for them, what it came back to was learning to rewind the tapes, erase those tapes, make new tapes, renew their minds, to question what they feared, to question it. Say, well, wait a minute. If I do this, this will happen, but what if it doesn't happen? To look for a third, fourth, and a fifth option. To question everything they had ever feared and to face their fears. And after all that was done, it wasn't the multiple personalities that left them. It was still the fear, the insecurities, the things they were told. Nobody will believe you. You'll fail. If you do this, something bad will happen. If you do that, someone will tell on you. Somebody will malign you. Somebody will sabotage you. So all of this that they had experienced apart from one another, but together. Now I want to explain that. If anybody has trauma, they block it out. They do what they need to do to block it out, but they remember, this happened to me, but I don't really remember it. Ask a woman if they remember natural childbirth. They'll tell you, yeah, I remember being in pain. Oh yeah, I was in pain. I know I was in pain, but ask a woman that was never given a drug. I had natural childbirth, I've never given a drug. What does a woman do? A woman disassociates during those big push down, push, bear down, push, one more push. Where do you go? Okay? What psychiatry has done is asked us to fill in where we go and name it with a personality. So this is where I veer from the medical trauma model, because it's normal. I can remember being a child, having surgery and being cut from here to here and being in a critical care unit and tubes everywhere, and I was just laid out like this. No shirt. I was in the intensive care. 9.5, 10 years old. Cold. It was freezing in there. And being just cut open. Just like to go shot or anything. But from here to here. And I remember, my parents couldn't be with me, but like every odd hour or whatever, for 10 minutes, 2 people could come in, and the nurses were constantly coming in, trying to keep my IV in my arm on a board and keep blood going in me and keeping me a little knocked out. And I would wake up a little bit, look around, and I would see my grandfather, my uncle, maybe, I really don't remember ever an aunt being there. I'm sorry to my aunts. I said this to a cousin, and she had a fit. She said, My mother said your mother was there. I said, I don't remember. I'm sorry. You know, I'm laying in intensive care at 9.5. I remember hearing her voice all the time in the hallway, talking to the doctors. Always. I don't remember her coming in to visit me. I do remember my uncle and my aunt coming before my surgery to give me like an activity thing to play with. An Eddie Meath Foundation that came around to visit kids that were going to be in the hospital. But I don't remember my aunts or I don't remember grandmothers or my mother. I remember my dad being there. I remember his, my uncle and my grandfathers. Don't know why. Maybe because they drove. I don't know. Maybe because it was such the odd hour or whatever. I don't know. But I remember mostly the nurses. And I can remember being in a little room. It's just to go to show you how memory works. I can remember being in a little room when I got to the hospital, my mother being there with me, and not my dad, because they were separated. And just the doctors coming in to meet me to explain to me, you know, we're going to put you into surgery, and we're going to cut from here to here, and you're going to be on a unit, but you're going to do good. And there were two thoracic surgeons, and they were both going to be operating on me. And they said it's going to be like 8-9 hours, maybe 10. You'll be asleep. I kept thinking, how am I going to sleep that long? I remember asking the one doctor and saying, I never sleep that long. How am I going to sleep that long? What if I wake up? And I'm saying, oh, don't worry. You'll be sound asleep. Won't feel a thing. And you won't wake up till it's done. And me just thinking, can that be? I wake up every 5 minutes at home. Okay. So I remember the funny parts. I remember Eddie Meath Foundation coming around to give me a toy to play with, and my aunt and my don't really remember. I think my aunt and my uncle were there. My mom's brother and his wife were there. And then on the other side of the family, I remember my grandfather, and I remember my grandfather on my other side of the family coming to see me. It's just really weird. It's very scattered memory, which makes sense. It was a very traumatic memory. And I'm on a drug in the middle of it, right? I'm on morphine. They're trying to keep me asleep. They're trying to keep me comfortable. I'm in critical care unit for a week, maybe. I think it was like a week and a half. And then on a regular floor for a week. And I think it was 4 days of testing before I went in. So it was it was long enough to that I got held back in school because I missed a lot of very important stuff. So I kind of grasped from that memory on how memories work, and through all the procedures that I had, which I had to have an angiogram, angioplasty, I had I had a catheter for almost 2 weeks. I had nasty tubes in my chest, in my throat, in my nose, in my arms. The blood was being given to me in my foot. I just remember the nurse coming in and putting the stuff in my IV to make me a little sleepy, to go to sleep. Well, in a trauma, that is how a memory is. You kind of wake up, and you remember a little bit, and then you fade out again to what you can't handle. So I've always said trauma is trauma is trauma, and people just deal with their pain as they can. It doesn't matter if you became a person with a bionic arm, or when you were in pain. Maybe you were trapped somewhere and you wanted to bash through a door or something. maybe you became a person that doesn't feel any pain because you didn't want to feel pain. You create what you need, okay? But I think where the problem is here is that we need to accept that there have been some people that were misdiagnosed. I know I wasn't misdiagnosed. I know there were aspects of being diagnosed multiple that were highly over pathologized and overly feared and over treated because I had insurance, number one, and two, because the media kept perpetuating the myths, and three, because I believed those myths. I believed, oh my God, I go to sleep. You know, I was being told, okay, you could go to sleep and the personality could get up and do something and you won't remember. Because this is what they knew about it then. I remember thinking, well, I'll never go to sleep again. Who the hell would go to sleep not knowing you're gonna... I was terrified to go to sleep. Well, what is that? What happens to you when you don't go to sleep at all? You get more pain in your body, you're not functioning well. Now, if you're already switching or splitting, then you begin to lose little gaps of time and behave differently, more irritable, so stressors would get to you more because you're tired and you ache all over. I got sicker and sicker because I wouldn't sleep. I was like, so now they're giving you medicine to help you sleep. And now you're in therapy with medicine and you're groggy. And now they're giving you medicine for the pain in your body because you got overtired. Because you were terrified of you. And now maybe you're self-harming because you're so scared of you, who's so awful. Now maybe you lost your job, your children, your relationship, your significant other person, your friends when you tried to tell them. Now they're afraid of you. So now you medicate more. And they medicate you more. And they make more sessions for you to come in. And all you have left is your therapist to believe. You try to go to church and tell people about your experience and they want to deliver you. And they tell you you're evil and you're a demon. And it's more traumatizing. And now you believe you're more bad. Okay, but what happens to people like, and I'm going to mention her name because I know a lot of multiples out there have a real issue with Jeanette Bartha's story. And I understand, but I understand, however, I won't say but, I understand. Okay, the issues that a lot of multiples have with Jeanette's suing the doctor and the university of the psychiatric hospital she was in and being such an advocate about bad psychiatry out there is because she was a victim of it. Now, a lot of people have said, okay, but she went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatry asked her her name, which I can see a therapist, psychiatrist saying, what would you like me to call you? Because they already know your name. They can look at your sheet. I know this from being a social worker and a client patient. You look at your face sheet, you know what, you've got a little note. And Jeanette says she was depressed. She went to a therapist. She was having trouble sleeping. She was depressed. She had body aches and pains. She was depressed, and that's it. Now, she went to therapy the same year I was diagnosed. I had been in therapy on and off since 1983. By 1986, I was diagnosed multiple. Jeanette was diagnosed the same year I was. And these were not amateur doctors that did the diagnosing. They were the experted ones of the day that still are training people and clinicians in trauma all over. A lot of people that are multiple have said, well, yeah, but she's trying to say that there's no such thing as DID or multiplicity. That's not what she's saying. What she's saying, or she's trying to say I wasn't really abused or I didn't really have trauma. That's not what she's saying. what she's saying is there was a time period and there were bad doctors out there that did. If you said one thing wrong, like, let me give you a different example than hers. I always say I'll give an example. I like to stay consistent. Say the doctor said, so how was the drive over here? And or say you get into the office and the clinician or doctor says, so how are you doing today? And you're really high energy. You're like, oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing? But normally you're just kind of like, good. How are you? The doctor might say, wow, you got a lot of good energy today. So what's happened that's giving you this good energy? Nothing. Just feel happy. Usually you're not this energetic. Usually so-and-so is. Okay, now a very good patient, client might think, I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I am that person. Little question, if you're not secure of who you are, you might question, yeah, I'm usually not this happy. You might question, why am I so happy? Why? Where did my energy come from? I don't know. Now you start to analyze it. Well, good. They got you right where they want to. Not all doctors, but there are some. So how was the drive in today? I don't know. I just went on rote. Rote? Yeah, I just kind of went autopilot. I don't know. I just wasn't thinking much here. Or maybe you were running late. And the doctor says, you're running late. Traffic bad? No, I don't know. It was all over the place. I just kept going in circles. Or I don't know. One of those days, got scattered. Any of these things could make the clinician start looking for alter personalities other than you. Picking up a magazine in the lobby that you wouldn't know. Like, I remember one time, I do know that one time I was sitting in a therapist's office and I just liked to pick up this one doll that it was a child psychologist's office, and I would go check with them about how my children were doing because I was in therapy, and whenever I sat there, because I was in therapy, they were in therapy too. So, and that's the thing I regret the most about this whole experience. But I remember there was this doll that it was like a puppet thing. Like one side of it was Raggedy Ann, the other side it was Riding Hood. Like or no, Goldilocks. It was either Goldilocks or the wolf. And it had a skirt on one side, and we flipped the skirt, and there was a wolf on the other side, and it just, actually, I was sitting there trying to figure out how to make it. Being a crafty person, DIYs, every time I would pick it up, I would look at it and flip the skirt. I would be looking at the stitches, like, okay, we got a Goldilocks kind of hair going here, and the wolf over here. How did they get the body together with the skirt over here? And that's what I was looking at. And I would flip it back and forth while I was talking to him because I was trying to. And this doctor who didn't know nothing about nothing said, not my doctor, but another doctor. He said, you must feel like little Goldilocks sometimes, and other times you feel like the big bad wolf, right? No, because I notice you always play with it. I'm not playing with it. I'm actually. Oh, okay. And I put it down right away. I was, forget it. And I kind of did this, and I really wanted to say, you little scumbag, because I was an emergency caseworker at the time, and he was one of the doctors that I could have referred people to for being a child psychologist, and he was on our list of doctors, and because I brought my children to him because he was a partner of my therapist, I felt like, man, I have sent you so much business and you're going to sit there and be stupid with me. I really had attitude with him, and he had attitude with me, which set up for a really bad situation until one day I reminded him that I had sent him over 60 patients from the agency I worked in, and I didn't have to do that. And I thought he really sucked, and I should call all those people up and tell them what I really thought of this doctor. So you gotta stay in your truth. Don't scream away from it. When you know something's true, stay with it. So there's a lot of applied meanings, my God, out there. There's ridiculous applied meanings that doctors give to things. And like Freud said, even though he was a kook, he was a crackhead, probably had sex with his daughter for analytical reasons, whatever. He was a nut job. And the whole father of psychiatry hangs its hat on him for a lot of things. Even he said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and we apply too many ridiculous meanings to alters and personas. So I think it's important that people understand Jeanette Bartha's story. And I friended Multiple Personalities Do Not Exist page on Facebook. I was a friend of Jeanette Bartha's on Facebook, and I caught a lot of hate for it. A lot of people out here were like, Maria's like a double agent. She's hooked up with Jeanette Bartha, who doesn't believe we were abused and doesn't believe we're multiple or have DID. She's against us. She's with that false memory thing, association. She's one of the evil ones. Oh my God, I had the DID support. What the hell is it called? I want to say Pat Goodwin, but that's not it. Maybe it is. The whole DID umbrella thing that I told you guys about, at their big conferences and everything with Colin Ross, she came against me because she said, I don't understand how you could believe in multiple personality, but then also believe Jeanette Bartha's story. And because you're limiting yourself if you don't. You have to believe in everyone's experience and at least honor their experience. Now, a lot of people have said Jeanette Bartha went into the doctors when the doctor said, what should I call you, whatever. She said, I just feel like a boy. And when he said, well, what's your name? He already knew what her name was, so he was looking for multiple personality. And we don't know why she said this. She doesn't know why she said this. But she said, you can call me Danny. Her name was Jeanette, but she said, you can call me Danny. Okay, so does she have a right to sue a doctor when she came in saying, you can call me Danny? My name is Danny. And it just grew from there. That she had personality. That she was depressed because she had repressed memory. And the same could be said for the late Shirley Ardell Mason. After going and reading all the literature that Dr. Wilbur gave her, which was multiple personality, the disintegration of personality by Dr. Morton Prince, after reading that whole book that Dr. Wilbur gave her, after 10 years of Shirley reading that, she went back into therapy, and one day she walked in and she said, hi, my name is Peggy. She acted younger. So now how much can you blame the doctor? Okay. Doctor's like, you who? Right. What if the person has a nickname? What if they say, well, my name is this, but my nickname is that? My therapist said my name is this, but people call me this. Are you sure that's not an alter? I had a good joke about it. I mean, I remember saying, I don't know. Are you this one or that one? See, you can really play with this. It takes two people to keep the ball going in the air. Okay? Because a lot of things can flap, but they can't fly for long. Flap your wings for a while, but you can't fly for long. If you name it, you create it. All you need is one person to suggest it and another to be insecure enough to believe it. To be desperate enough to want to get well, to want to feel well, to believe it. So be careful with words really do have meaning. What you speak out, you really do manifest. In fact, God created the world by speaking. And when we look at the Bible, it says the Word was made flesh, and the Word dwelt among us. And the Word, they're talking about Jesus Christ there, or who some people know to be named Yeshua or Yahweh. The Word was made flesh, and the Word was made flesh, and the Word dwelt among us. God created the world in 7 days, not on our timeline, but in 7 days on God's timeline, by naming each thing and saying, that's good, I'll keep it. And say, I think I'll call this night and this day, and then the next day say, I don't think I want to call it night, I think I want to call it dark. Didn't do that. He said, I like night, day. Night, day. It's good. Keep it. And it was done. Created. We are created in God's image. We create by what we speak. We create by what we think. Now, outwardly we don't always create what we think, but inwardly our body can manifest what we think. And outwardly we can be drawn to what we think. So that's all I've been saying is I think we need to look at everyone's experience. But I will draw the line always. And this is why, again, I really wanted this to be an explanation video. I hope I'm not too all over, but I've waited a long time to do this video. And I do have even little flashcard notes that I've been looking at. My doctor never created multiple personality with me. I always knew there was trauma in my background. I always knew what I did to cope. I can go all the way back to my high school yearbook and see that I was being counseled all through high school, and the counselor even then thought, I've met many different Marias, and you're very stoic, and you're not responding the way a person would react that I know has been through what you've been through. And I didn't. And I didn't ever react to what was going on as I should. Because I didn't believe I had a right to be emotional. And now I'm all over emotional, and it's okay. I'm okay with it, and if anybody else isn't, then they don't want to know me, and I don't want to know them. I'm not scary, dangerous, emotional. I'm not anything you see in the multimedia, mass media of what multiple personality is. And they're doing that to post-traumatic stress disorder too. They're making that be something like, the person flashes back and they're no longer here in reality, and they disconnect and they do violent, dangerous things. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they do not. We're applying meanings where there aren't none. And what Jeanette Bartha had happened to her, and a lot of people said, yeah, but it was her own fault. I mean, she said her name is Danny. And then she just fell into it. Yeah, but she was being given sodium amytal. She was being drugged She had enough insurance that they were drugging her during sessions. Okay, so if you're under a lot of anxiety and going through repressed memory and using hypnosis, guided imagery, being given something to help you sleep and then something to help you with panic attack or anxiety, it's altering your reality while you're in therapy. So be careful of that, especially antidepressants. Just look at the side effects: suicide, depression, all the things that can come from it. Psychotic behavior, personality changes, memory losses. Have you ever seen one of those Ambien commercials where the little butterfly is floating in the window to put the person to sleep? Go to sleep, it's okay, go to sleep. And at the end, it says, you may wake up in the middle of the night, and make sure you go right to bed. Don't get up after you take the pill. If you get up, you might do things you don't remember. Man, if somebody tried to give me an Ambien, I'd be like this all night. I'm awake, I'm still awake, I'm still awake. I'd be writing it down. I'm awake, I'm still awake, I didn't do anything crazy, I'm still awake. I had a friend years ago who used to take Ambien at 10 o'clock on the dot every night, and she would call me. She was kind of a little scared to take her Ambien, but she knew she felt she needed to take something to help her, and this is what the doctor gave her. She would take her Ambien at 10 o'clock. She would call me. She would say, I just took my Ambien. I just want to talk until I start to get sleepy, and then I got to go to bed. Okay. And I'd be listening for her all of a sudden starting to wake up. Because that's what happened. When she would start to get kind of slurry, I'd be like, okay, go to bed. Go to bed. Your Ambien's kicking in. Go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. She'd be like, no, I'm just finishing up things in the kitchen. What? What? Oh, yeah. I got to get that off the stove. And I'd be on the phone going, go to bed, go to bed. She'd be like, did I turn that off? What? No, the Ambien's not yet. I'm still okay. Oh, I have to go. You know what? I got to get something at the store now. And then I'll be back, and then I'll go to bed. I'll call you later. I'll be like, no, go to bed. That is how quick that shit kicks in. So when they say take your Ambien, go to bed, you really have to go to bed. Who would want to be on that? I finally talked her into getting off of it. I was like, just go off that crap. You don't make any sense. You don't remember anything you say or you do. All of these things have wicked side effects. And if you're in therapy on anti-anxiety medication for a little panic or generalized anxiety disorder or recovering traumatic memories or taking something to help you sleep because you really processed a lot in therapy and you need to rest your body, good luck in therapy. You'll believe anything. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened to me, but I'm saying I did stay in therapy too long because of it. I did. And I allowed things to be applied that had no meaning. I allowed different aspects or personas to be explored more than ever was needed. And my therapist and I have both said, yeah, that went on a little too long, and I'm sorry, and and I followed your lead, but I should have known. And we both kind of looked at it as, okay, it was a growing experience. But I was resentful. I was like, but wait a minute. You were the doctor, and I was on the medication, and my whole life was gone. So I only had you to come here to, and what? And you were making money. If somebody ever asks you to go on Medicaid to continue to get therapy, run. Run. Please run. Now where I won't go, and this is a long video, I know, but where I won't go with this is I refuse to go down the path of time travel, reptilian. I'm just not there. Can't do it. Sorry. Sorry to all you fangirls and boys of Laura Eisenhower and the Rothschild. I know there is an Illuminati and a Shadow Gov and a Illuminati in the entertainment business. I know that. There's a bunch of bad guys out there that want things their way. They want their money, and when they can't make their money, you're gone. I know that. I know there is predictive programming. I know the media runs things, and it's done in sound bites and mirages to groom us a lot. I know that a lot of drills are grooming and have gone wrong. But what I can't go along with is I'm not so stupid as to believe we're the only humans on the earth. I just don't believe that we're all half-breeds if we're multiple. And if, please, if you were born in the 80s and 90s and you're claiming to be programmed from the projects that went on in from the 1940s to 70s because your parents and grandparents were in the lineage, I can't receive your mail anymore. I can't. I won't be a part of you believing an untruth. There are programmed multiples. There is satanic ritual abuse. There are government programs and projects that went on. But when you're mixing the divine feminine with archangels, with reptilians, with Egyptian calligraphy, with aliens, with all the different projects, media, trauma, all of it together, I think you got something else going on. I think you have the makings of a really good sci-fi book. You've got the Da Vinci Code. You've got the Divine Feminine. You've got Reptilian. You've got it all together. And it's a little too much. You ever heard that? I'm a stickler for details. And when somebody protests too much, that's a big tell for me. But when somebody's got too much, and they're all over. Yeah. So I think you should write it all down in your journal and write a really good book or a movie screenwrite or something. But please stop driving yourself crazy and everyone else with all of your rhetoric. And so I won't go down into that reptilian thing. All right. And I will respect all opinions. I think there's a reason you're doing that. Those of you that have picked up on a little bit of truth are running down a rabbit hole with it. I guess it's sort of like, I remember when Trudy Chase and the troops did an interview, and a lot of multiples were watching the interview to see, however a person represented was what, oh my God, what is she going to say? How are they going to act? Because people are going to think we're like that, because that is how it is. And she was doing great until she started talking about energy and how everybody talked about this. Everybody for a long time said, and she started talking about how bulbs start busting when she's in the room. A different personality comes in or whatever. And that somebody had told her that things start moving around the room when other alters are in the room. It just went a little too out there. Now, what happened was she didn't really know, but somebody told her. That's what happens when so-and-so's around. You are very vulnerable when you are a multiple, because people really do believe that you can't remember when you switch. And that's another big misconception, which I'm going to talk about in this. There are time lapses and time gaps in amnesic time periods, like I had the surgery. I don't remember my mother being there, but I remember everybody else being there. Gap. Memory doesn't flow consecutively all the time, fluidly. It skips around. That is what Suzanne Kazin was talking about with her doctor, was time doesn't just, it bumps around. You can't make it just go, there's going to be little gaps. And he wrote down dissociation time lapse. So, that's normal. Don't let things that are normal become abnormal. And I guess just try to respect why I feel very strongly about, there were so many people in the 80s. I'm 59. We're the same age. So women were misdiagnosed back then, and they lost their life. She was in a hospital for 6 years. She was drugged for 6 years. Her life was controlled for 6 years because she thought everyone in her life abused her and did horrible things to her. And she thought she had 50 million personalities she didn't have. And she suffered. And when her insurance ran out and her doctor went on vacation and they let her go home on her own, she just started weaning off the medication, exercising, and her head cleared, and she thought, wait, if that couldn't have happened because that person wasn't even in the country when that happened. When the year, and if that didn't happen, then this didn't happen. If this didn't happen, then this didn't happen. And when she went back, she confronted her doctor. Of course, her doctor was going to tell her, well, you're resisting another personality. He thought he was meeting another personality who was saying, I don't believe I'm multiple. I believe you're making this up. Or somebody was sabotaging another personality who reported that happening. There's so many ways this can be manipulated that you don't want to enter into therapy to get a diagnosis of DID or MPD because you want the diagnosis. I have met young people out here that are going to specialized clinic to get the DID diagnosis because they don't want to be diagnosed bipolar, or they don't want to be diagnosed schizoaffective, or they don't want to be diagnosed borderline or depressed. They want the DID. That's not something you want. And you don't want to try on and play with the roles out here, because you play with them long enough, you'll be like an actor that, that takes on a role and can't get rid of it. So be very careful what you play with, what you name, you create, and where there is pathology, there is money to be made. Where there is recovery, where somebody can say there's rehab and recovery needed and relapses will occur, there is money to be made. And if you don't have insurance and you don't have cash, you're not ill. You're okay. If a doctor tries to get you to sign up for disability, to get on Medicaid so they can see you and treat you, don't do it. Okay? Okay? Because you're not disabled, you're more able than you're anything. You're not disordered, you're more orderly than you know. Alright, that's all I wanted to say. So I know a lot of people have asked over the years, why do you Why did you agree with the movie Split? Because it shows every wrong thing a doctor does that created him to be the way he is. And because it shows that trauma in the past that we resist looking at could actually work for us when we need it. How Casey survived her past trauma became very helpful, and that's why she lived when the other gals died from the beast in Split. So there's a little silver lining you gotta look for there, okay? I think Case Soul 1460 said, or some of my friends over at Estrella said a long time ago, Jerry Bello, I think, said it best. In order to change the media, you have to become the media. Become the media. Okay, but when you become the media, you could change it for the good or the bad. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm a programmed multiple. I'm a victim to the program. They're chasing me. They're this, they're that. They're controlling me. But I'm a warrior. And I muscled through. And I'm a survivor. You can't be the victim and the victor at the same time. You can't claim you're not disordered but still be the victim. It's a real disconnect. So, if you're half reptilian, good for you. That doesn't mean I am. If I just don't know it, oh well, then I'm blissfully unaware. So, yeah. Okay. Take care, everyone. That was my longer than life video that I really needed to say. Some things I just really needed to say. My doctor did not create multiple personality with me. I don't believe in multiple personality as the way the media and a lot of medical trauma models and doctors practice it and show it to be. But I know that I do live my life with more than one, and at one time it did make me very disordered, and I lost my children to it, and I lost everything that I dreamed of having in my life, my children, my job, I won't even enter a relationship with anyone because I think they already have preconceived notions of what it is and what it isn't. And I'm never taken seriously for anything because of it. And yet I make perfect sense this way. And I for a time was disordered and then very well ordered. It made sense for me to be disordered when I was. And more times than that, I was very high functioning and very ordered, very orderly. So it's like stubbing your toe a couple of times 3 days in a row and being klutzy. And you get caught being klutzy. Okay? We're all a little crazy. Some people just hide it better than others. Right? So go take your crazy somewhere else and don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Everyone's a little crazy. Look at the president. He's a little crazy. Take care. Bye-bye.